Matthew, why should people who are into fly fishing and rod building today care about the letters to Everett Garrison?
Just about everyone who's involved with rod making stands on Everett Garrison's shoulders. He was the one that quantified and perfected making a rod on an individual style, not big machines, but in a style that everybody could do, and most of us make them still in this style. The difference with the letters versus the book about how to make rods is that we learn more about Everett Garrison himself, and in that way we learn more about ourselves. These letters are spread across history. World War II people, General George Marshall, Secretary of State, CIA Director Beadle Smith, all the way to a kid who worked at McDonald's. And what they tell us is that people cared about Garrison, they loved his rods, but they also say he was a conservationist. He hunted deer, he had friends, he had photography, he did everything. And then you look at these letters and you think about your own friends and the people who get your rods, and you find out he may have been the master, but the rod makers living today have just as rich a contribution in some ways to their own circle of friends as he did to theirs. And it makes us not only more capable, but more relevant.
How did we come across these letters?
These letters were letters written to Everett Garrison. Someone collected them, and they came up, I believe, for an auction. An anonymous donor bid on these. He donated them to the museum. And then they're stored here, and you can come here and read all these different letters. There's a somewhat of an index. But the problem was, who are the people behind the letters? Sure, we all know Secretary of State George Marshall, the Marshall Plan. But these other people, who were they, and how did they connect? And that's why we talked with the executive director of the museum and some other people, and we came up with a book that not only shows that other side of Garrison, his rich, full life that he had, but it also takes these letters and shows who the people were behind the letters. I mean, one lady trained people during World War II to drive in the dark. That was her job, and she fished Garrison rods. One person was an ambassador to England. He had an eye patch. You see it in his biography. He hooked his eye while fishing with a Garrison fly rod. Poor guy. But who knew that, you know? And then we put an index in the back of the book so that if you're a member of Anglers of New York, or if you know Ted Rogowski, you can look up and see where they fell in the great scheme of things as far as Garrison was concerned, because these are the people whose letters he kept. He surely got more, but these are the ones that he kept.
How can someone get a copy of the letters to Everett Garrison?
If you want a copy of the book, The Letters to Everett Garrison, there are probably 3 easy ways. You can contact the museum. I'm sure there'll be some here. You can contact me, but better yet, go to the publisher's website. Just Google it up. Alder Creek publishes The Letters to Everett Garrison, and get a copy online.
Tell us about some of the other books that you've written about fishing.
A few years ago, quite a few now, my husband started making bamboo rods. He gave me his first one. But when he was making his second one for a friend, I thought, what can I do to take part in all this? And I like to write, so I began a journal of him making the friend the fly rod, which, you know, after a while he planed the cane, would get a little boring. So I would add all the things that we love about Maine, the moose in the water, the bamboo on the bench. Then, when we gave the friend the rod for Christmas, I sent along the manuscript. It was forwarded to a publisher. He wrote me back and said, don't let anyone see the manuscript. And that's how this book came about. And then when I made a fly rod of my own, I put it in this book, which is Changing Planes, because now I have the plane instead of David does. And it also, there's some big changes in our lives. And then I tried a little bit of an offshoot. Headwaters Follow Snow is just the fun stuff about Maine in the winter, like falling through the ice. And I finished off the series with this one, Brook Trout Forest, where we both make 2 rods together and take them to Labrador and fish for brook trout. All of them are nature books, All of them are a little bit different from the letters to Everett Garrison, which is a research project more than a memoir of our lives.
Which did you enjoy more, the memoir or the compilation of letters, or are they apples and oranges?
The books are kind of apples and oranges, and of course I love my life, so I loved writing it and I love sharing it and I love the friends I've made through it. But I really believe in giving back. I really believe in saying thank you. And not only to the museum, showing off that the museum has this amazing resource. This is just one of the resources this museum has, but also my part of saying thank you to Everett Garrison, which in a way is a thank you to Hoagie Carmichael, who chronicled Garrison's method. So in a way, this one is kind of my favorite because it's nothing about me, it's all a tribute to someone else.
And if it weren't for Hoagie Carmichael, might Everett Garrison have been forgotten?
Right. That's the thing. Garrison made 900 rods. They went all over the country. People loved them. The first rod I made was on a Garrison taper. But I wouldn't have known about a Garrison taper. We may never have known about Garrison. He would have slipped from history, except that he embraced the idea of sharing his knowledge. That was not common at the time. But he embraced it. He allowed Hoagie to write the book. He had helped Hoagie first with a movie about it, and then the book came out later. If it really wasn't for Hoagie Carmichael, we might never have known about Everett Garrison. So really it's a partnership, one and the other.
And now you can read the letters to Everett Garrison in the compilation by Kathy Scott, and the original letters remain here in the collection at the Catskill Fly Fishing Center and Museum. Kathy, thank you very much.
Thank you.